Well, John, it is so wonderful to get a chance to sit down with you again.
It's wonderful to be here, and I have wonderful memories of you as an intern. We've not had one that could compete with you in any way or form.
Oh, I ruined it for everyone else?
Yes.
Ouch. Well, it's great to get a chance to talk with you and to share with the audience. One of the things that I remember the most from gardening with you, aside from Peckerwood opened my eyes to an enormous palette of plants that I had never had experience with. But also your role as a teacher and a mentor, and how willing you are to share your expertise and your knowledge is wonderful. So I'm thrilled we're going to get to share some of your fun stories with folks this evening. Since we're looking back, going forward, I think one of the things I'd love to talk with you about is how did you get started with gardening?
Well, I was raised in rural South Carolina, in a small community, in a rather large community, not a small community, of gardeners. There were, I think, 5 or 6 or 7 families in this little community where the husbands and wives both gardened. And from a child, I was forced to be a part of this, whether I liked it or not. Pulling nut grass on a hot day in South Carolina, it's almost as bad as being in Texas.
And yet you somehow still ended up gardening.
We had the promise of going swimming in the afternoon. So there was a bribe connected with this.
So you got into gardening by being bribed, essentially.
Yes.
So that's good. What took you to Texas from South Carolina?
Teaching. I was trained as a painter and had really strict and wonderful critics. Barnett Newman, Robert Motherwell, and David Smith were all 3 my teachers. And from them I gained a lot of knowledge. I remember Barnett Newman once said in a seminar, a student asked him, why did he paint? And he said, well, I want to see something beautiful and something that will make me think. And I feel the same way about the garden. And that's why the garden started. Texas, when I first arrived, was a beautiful state. There were still unspoiled areas. And as I observed a few years, it was being eaten up by, like the rest of the world, with subdivisions and shopping centers and this sort of thing. And I needed something around me, an environment that was really wonderful.
Something that was beautiful that you could enjoy and make you think.
And that made me think.
And how did you find the property that would become your garden?
Well, I had a studio in Houston, and the commute between College Station and Houston became too great. Although I was very fond of the events that occurred in Houston, the opera, the ballet. It was all wonderful. And so I would look for some place that was halfway between College Station and Houston.
And what were you doing in College Station?
I was teaching first-year design to architecture students, which I'm still doing. I came for 1 year because I needed a job.
And they can't get rid of you.
Painters don't get jobs every day. It's difficult. And this was a job, and it was a good job. And
I'm sure.
I've learned to like it.
In 40 years.
I still have difficulty with the heat. It gets worse as you get older. So don't go to Texas and think it's going to get any better. But the winters are wonderful, and it's amazing the numbers of plants that will go. The garden, by the way, is halfway between College Station and Houston. And it's where 3 zones meet. And it's also where there are 3 different types of plants that meet. The coastal plain comes in, the piney woods of East Texas come into there, and the post oak savanna comes in from the north. And our soil is neutral. We've got wonderful water. We have a spring-fed stream.
That was one of the things that drew you to the property.
Yes, that's what sold me on the property. The first time I went to see the property, I looked at it and I said to the realtor, I'm not interested. It's an old house. It's falling down. It's properly located in halfway between College Station and Houston. And she said, well, did you see the stream? And I said, no. And so I went back and worked my way through the weeds and briars and vines and broken down fences and found the stream. And it reminded me of a stream that I had enjoyed as a child in South Carolina. It's where I found a colony of Stewartia malacodendron growing as a child, and that always influenced my thinking and my...
So you've been plant hunting since you were a kid?
Yes. That's how I spent we'd get on a horse and ride and ride and ride to everybody's property. It had no gate, no fences and no gates in South Carolina at that point.
Wow.
And so I could ride 10 or 15, maybe 5 miles and explore every stream and every valley in the whole area.
And that stream that you mentioned, that's the stream that has now grown into a beautiful, it's planted beautifully now, as we saw in the photograph.
Right, and we use that water for irrigation, which is very helpful because it's shallow water and the plants love it, whereas the deep wells that we have are deep wells going down to 350 feet, and there are lots of chemicals, lots of salts in the water, which plants don't like that.
I remember as a student hauling many buckets of water out of the stream.
Now I could haul one. I used to could haul two.
Well, it was either hauling water or hauling gravel. I don't know which was more,
and we're still hauling gravel. Gravel gardens are wonderful, but they do require a lot of work, a lot of maintenance. Especially this last summer, we had 11 inches of rain in 2 days, 5 one day and 6 the next. And that's pretty disastrous when you've got gravel everywhere. Although it held up pretty good. We just had to do maybe a day's repair.
That's reasonable, actually. I love the story of how you came up with the name for the garden. Could you remind me?
Yes. I had a very good friend. Her name was Mary Kempner, and she went by Mame. All of her friends, dear friends, called her Mame when I purchased the garden. And I had a dog at the same time by the name of Beauregard.
I love that name.
And there were lots of woodpeckers on the property. So it started out something about Peckerwood, referring to the woodpeckers, and then I realized that it wasn't really the woodpeckers. It was the book Auntie Mame that where the name came from. She was married to Beauregard from Peckerwood Plantation somewhere in Georgia. So that's how the name. And then, of course, that sort of lay dormant for a while, and I never thought about a name or anything. And then when we started Yuckadoo Nursery, Carl Shanefield, by the way, and I started Yuckadoo Nursery, and I've since sold my share to him, and Carl has since moved to Argentina. But we said people needed to laugh and to smile. And so we said, who wouldn't laugh at Yuckadoo Nursery at Peckerwood Garden? And so we got a lot of mileage out of that.
I imagine you did.